Well, good morning and welcome to the second day of the weekend here at Silverstone for the second GB4 race of the weekend. I think you'll agree, Piers, yesterday's race was quite exciting, quite eventful, and you're going to see in the highlights in just a second a moment where Jared Warburski's car, Kevin Mills' racing car, went over the back of the Elite Motorsports car of Jack Sherwood. Quite a scary moment. Everything is fine. Jack is absolutely fine. We're going to grab a word with him in just a second. But one of those races where Nicholas Taylor, who started the day, with Max Maserati overtaking him after the last round at Snetterton, he started fifth. Didn't look so great for him. He really capitalised on that, managed to get the race win, and it's really changed everything as he takes over the lead of the championship.
More drama in the GB4 Championship. We've seen throughout the year, it's been so unpredictable. The racing's been amazing. We saw Max Maserati, pole position. He was so happy with that after, unfortunately, Megan Gilkes took a penalty from her fast lap in qualifying, which meant she couldn't start from pole. It looked like that was the grid set for the race, and then Jack Sherwood came storming around the outside of Abbey Corner just before all hell kicked loose, kicked off at Village Corner, where unfortunately Warburski, looking to make a move on the inside of both Maserati and Sherwood, just misjudged his braking, hit the back of Maserati, which then launched him into the air and landed on the back of Jack Sherwood. Luckily, both drivers okay. Teams look like they fixed the car, so they're all good to go today. But unfortunately, that meant the end of the race for both Sherwood, Maserati, with a form of a puncture, and then Warburski, of course, involved in that incident, which meant Nicholas Taylor could then come through.
Absolutely, and also Megan Gilkes did very well to get a puncture early on, get that tyre replaced, and then make her way back to getting a third place, which is exceptional. I feel like we've talked about it for too long. I feel like we should see it now. So here are the highlights from the first race of the weekend here in the GB4 Championship here at Silverstone.
Highlights from round 16 of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC, would see Max Maserati start from first place, and he would hold that lead down into the first corner. Jack Sherwood with a superior launch from the second row of the grid up into second place, as he would get past Jared Warburski. A bit of a race down towards Magnus Beckers and Chapel as Nicholas Taylor was trying to attack. On the race towards Abbey on the Hamilton Straight, though, it was Jack Sherwood looking to the outside with a fantastic move around the outside of Abbey, just making it stick, using the curve a little bit. But watch for Warburski behind, into the rear end of Maserati, up onto the rear of Jack Sherwood. The two of Warburski and Sherwood would be out of the race immediately, and a very scary crash indeed. Through all of that, as the safety car would come out, Nicholas Taylor was able to get himself up into the race lead before race control had called it. They would all slow down to safety car speed. Thankfully, Jack Sherwood and Jared Warburski would be out of the car, and both would be thankfully very safe indeed. There is Warburski, who would be a bit shocked, a bit stunned, and a bit irritated. But as the race would get back underway, Nicholas Taylor would control at the front, ahead of now Tom Mills and Logan Hanna. Max Maserati had to come into the pit lane for a puncture. Same with Megan Gilkes as well. Chloe Grant would go for a bit of a spin at the first corner with an issue with Christian Lester, and there is Max Maserati into the pit lane, having that the new tyre fitted, and he would get straight back out onto the racetrack. It would be a solo race for him, but he'd just try and see what the car can do. Megan Gilkes, the Gilkes missile, was making its way up the order, the fastest car in a straight line all week so far. Would get past Christian Lester and up into 6th position. Would start eyeing down the podium battle that at the moment was between Logan Hanna and Jessica Edgar. Logan Hanna was able to pull a little bit clear of Jess Edgar, and so that was the opportunity for Megan Gilkes to come through. Down into Stowe Corner, the 64 would make a move to the inside that Jessica Edgar would not fight too hard, and up now into 4th position, really closing down on the Graham Brunton racing car. And then on the final lap of the race, would get to the outside of Abbey, would send it in, but a little bit too hard from Logan Hanna. Well spotted by Megan Gilkes, but a bit of a spin over the infield. Megan Gilkes would be up into 3rd position, and Logan Hanna would drop all the way back down to 7th. Jess Edgar would be close enough to maybe try and attack, but Megan Gilkes was out clear. This driver, though, for his 6th win in the 66, Nick Taylor across the line to take a very well-deserved victory from 5th on the grid, ahead of Tom Mills. A tight battle across the line would see Megan Gilkes taking 3rd position, Jess Edgar over the line in 4th, and then a debut for Marcus Short for the Hillspeed team in that number 88. A fantastic drive to 5th, and a personal best for Christian Lester. Logan Hanna just 7th after that final lap spin. She was very irritated post-race. This driver certainly wasn't. Absolutely pumped, not only taking the race victory, but retaking the all-important championship lead. Nick Taylor on top here at Silverstone once again, and straight into the arms of the team manager.
So there we go, a very eventful first race in the GB4 Championship this weekend at Silverstone, with Nicholas Taylor really making the championship race come alive. winning from 5th position with Max Maserati completely going back there, having started on pole. He will start on pole for the race a little bit later on, will Max. But we have to talk to Jack Sherwood now. We saw that incident there with Jared Werberski and Max Maserati. Now, from your position, I mean, did you know what was going on?
No, I did the move on Max, and to be honest with you, I was just I went defensive to try and cover it, and I looked in my mirrors as we came through turn 1. I could see Jared was quite close, and then I looked in my mirrors again before turning, and I saw Jared was well, I saw his floor, and that's never a good sign. But no, then just felt the impact, and the extinguisher went off in the car, so I couldn't see very much through my visor. So yeah, no, it was a bit unexpected, and it was a bit frustrating considering like how hard the team have worked, and the pace we had found, and the fact that we had got into the lead that early on. But it's one of those things, and it's how motorsport is, and I'm sure we'll go again today and try and get back to where we should be.
We've seen you pull some great moves this year, and another move around the outside of Abby. That was pretty hefty. I actually pulled the same move on Nick Gilkes in the simulator on Friday night, so I'm glad that you taking some notes from me. But when you're pulling a move like that, you have to put a lot of trust in the car on the inside, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think Max it's always easy to race with him because we had a good race in Snetterton, and he's gonna give you room to pull off those kind of moves, and it's not just giving you room, but it's also giving them room as well. And no, he's a very respectful racer, and he knows when to give up and when to keep battling, and it's fun racing with him. And then I kind of did the move and just had my sights focused forward and trying to build a gap, but then obviously the crash happened. But I think there's a lot of positives to take away from yesterday. I think on Thursday we were 2.2 off the pace, 2.2 seconds off the pace, and now we're 3/10 I think it was. So no, I'm very happy with how the day went, and I think it's important to take the positives as much as the negatives from. We've
seen a lot of really good racing in GB4 this year, and generally it's been very high quality, very close, but very respectful. Is that something that you found throughout the year? Is there any, how have you found the racing generally?
Definitely, it's so refreshing to be able to race in a championship where there's not a lot of crashes, and where we can race that close and get away with it. I don't think there's really been a boring race this year, and the pack racing here last time we were here was mega. I think all the drivers have good spatial awareness and know when a move's on and when it's not, and the room to give. So it's mega being able to race that close with people.
I was going to say, not many crashes in the GB4 Championship. Quite a few crashes in the sim racing that we did the other day. I did join for the last race of that, and me and Jack did have a little dance in the middle of the track there as Logan Hanna just whizzed on by. But it's good to know you're okay after yesterday. And we've just seen Tom Leben with Elite Motorsport winning the GB3 race, and you guys have shown some great pace. So going into this race now, was it P4 you're starting? You must be pretty confident.
Yeah, definitely. I think the pace is 100% there. We know we can race well, and the car's been mega from, I only felt it for a lap yesterday, but it was mega, and it switched on just like that. So I'm looking forward to going in and trying to make up a few more positions, a bit less pressure starting further back. But yeah, I think the pace is there to maybe get a win.
Excellent stuff. Well, Jack, we're going to let you go and get ready for this race now. But a very exciting race yesterday in the GB4 Championship. We're here at Silverstone. The conditions are a little bit tricky. So let's just check out where we're racing this weekend, and we'll have a look at what it's like to ride on board with one of the GB4 cars.
Let's take a look at the venue then. We are racing this weekend as we head to Northamptonshire, to one of the most legendary circuits in the United Kingdom. It is, of course, Silverstone, a fantastic venue for any style of racing. If it can be raced, it will be raced around here. A circuit which opened back in 1948. So much history around here. Of course, one of those circuits that was built for an old-fashioned RAF airfield. The length of 3.6 miles, roughly 5.9 kilometres, with so many twists and turns over the three sectors. Iconic is a word which would be associated with such a venue. Over the 18 corners, of course, fantastic ones like Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel, overtaking opportunities into the likes of Copse and Stowe with their high-speed commitment, and then, of course, that fantastic section that was built back in the early 2010s where you go through farm, into village, into the loop, and of course, that entrance into Brooklands, absolutely superb.
Let's ride on board Max Maserati in this GB4 car around the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. World famous and amazing circuit for these cars. Not quite flat through turn 1, very fast through Copse Corner. Watch the exit, because running wide will incur a penalty. You'll see Max just adjust the mirrors here. He'll be needing those starting from pole position in both race 1 and race 2. We go into Maggots left, keeping it, then tugging right through Beckett's, and then left to open up Chapel. Using a lot of curb there, can unsettle the car, but he settled it nicely there. And then the very important run out onto the Hanger straight. Very long straight here, 780 metres. One of the main overtaking opportunities. You can see him adjusting his mirrors once again. Those mirrors do get affected by the wind, so you can see it moving down. He'll have to set them properly for the race. We now go into Stowe, opening up the entry as much as possible, nice and smooth on the brakes to not unsettle the car. Perfect apex on the right-hand side, and then watching track limits again on the exit. We now move right to straighten the car up for the very important braking for Vale and Club. Late apex, turning in strong and late to allow us to go flat out through Club. As we head out onto the Hamilton Straight. Hamilton Straight, 500 metres, so another area where slipstreaming is going to be a big part of the race. The new wing, which connected with the brand new bridge to the hotel on the left-hand side. We're then flat out pretty much through Abbey and Farm Curve. Whether it's flat in the race will depend on your setup. We then get the car nice and straight. You can see Max straightening the car nicely to allow the braking hard into the village. Don't use all the exit because it compromises your run into the loop. You can see him, nice late apex, settling the car for a great exit through the exit of the loop and through this little kink of Aintree onto the very long 640 metre Wellington Straight. Again, another area for overtaking in the race, with slipstreaming being a big part of the first time we came here earlier in the year. Using all the curb on the right hand side to open up the entry to Brooklands, braking in a straight line to allow us to go nice and deep. We then run out to the edge and then fire it into the final corner, Luffield. Going wide, don't need to make that second apex to allow traction because we can still stay on the circuit. Max doing an excellent job of that there. And then through the final little kink, Woodcote on the 770 metre run into the first corner. That'll be where the overtaking is at the start of the race. Can Max hold out from the 2 pole positions?
Well, I'm now here with Logan Hanna from Graham Brunton Racing with Laser Tools, and it's been 4 weeks since we last saw you guys in the GB4 Championship. What have you been up to?
Keeping busy at work. I work part-time at Knockhill as an instructor, and they've been keeping me pretty busy. Everything from instructing in rally cars to being on the flags at a race weekend. It does give you a little bit of an insight once you do that to really how difficult being a marshal actually is, but it kept me busy, but luckily I was getting paid for it.
Yeah, it's all right if you're getting paid. It's a very important job, the marshals. We often sort of chat to them off camera, and you know they're giving up a lot of their time to do a very important job. Now, last time we were here at Silverstone, it was your first time getting a podium. You came second in that last race. Do you fancy your chances of getting another trophy this weekend?
Well, I hope so. Qualifying wasn't horrendous. I'm not ecstatic by it, but it was good. It was a good step in the right direction, and we're right on the back there. I mean, we saw the tow here last time. Tom with an engine issue through the tow managed to lead the race at one point, so anything can really happen. And Romanek won the last race from P5. That's where I'm starting. So we're just putting everything in the right place to go and have a good go at it.
Absolutely. Well, Logan, we wish you the best of luck, and obviously your teammate Chloe as well. And we'll see how you get on there. Logan Hanna here from Graham Brunton Racing with Laser Tools, which now I get right every time. It only took like 6 rounds.
That move would not have been allowed. Welcome, Logan, to our social event here at Simply Race for the GB3 and GB4 Championship. We just had the first race. How did that go for you?
It was all right, other than being taken out a few times by stationary cars, funnily enough, just pulling out in front. Hopefully that doesn't happen this weekend.
Anyone that's on the GB4 grid take you out?
I don't think so. I didn't recognise any of the names, but I think there was some that were racing under other names, so it could have been, but...
Smurf accounts, yeah, I've heard about that in the sim racing. Have you got much experience in sim racing?
Not personal kind of at-home experience, but I did do the Virtual Le Mans at the beginning of the Euro Pro Drive, but that was kind of thrown in at the deep end. But I guess after doing a 24-hour race with a factory team, you kind of pick it up pretty quickly. But a home sim like this I've not touched since January, so picked it up pretty quickly. But I could see having a lot of practice what it can do for you.
Yeah. Because a lot of the drivers I know do a lot of sim racing in the background, either at home or they go to simulator centres. Have you ever done a metro preparation on that, or do you more concentrate on other things?
No, I do. I go to base performance with driver coach Johnny Adam, or sometimes he's away, I do it without him. But every round I'll go and I'll spend 2 hours. It is essentially like doing a day in the car, because you can do 3 laps, pick out something and then go straight back out rather than having to wait 40 minutes, an hour, 2 hours to get back out again. If you do that and 2 extra days, you're set. But if you maybe don't have the money to do that Thursday, just get yourself into a sim like that and it's essentially the same.
Hi Chloe, how was that race for you?
I beat Jack, so I'm happy with that. Yeah, it was fun. It was really weird. I feel like you personally won because you had practice.
Wait, did I win? Did I win? Did I win?
You did win, yes.
Oh, did I? Oh,
you
thanks
did.
for reminding me.
You're welcome, but you had the head start because you practiced before any of us got here, so I feel like that's slightly cheating. Yeah, it was good fun. There was a lot of shunts, but thank God the damage was off, so we kept going.
A little bit less expensive when you crash in the sim, eh?
yeah.
Do you have much experience on the sim? I think you did a competition earlier on this year. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, I do a bit at home. My home sim's not that great, so I do need to get it upgraded a bit. I did do a competition for Rocket for esports. It was really good. I was winning actually, and then it was Brands Hatch GP. One of the corners I just lost the rear, and I got second place, which was tough. It was a tough competition, but yeah, it was good fun.
Oh, good. Have you got much practice in the sim? I've just spoken to Logan, your teammate. She uses the sim at base performance. Do you do anything like that to prepare?
Yeah, like some iZone. I used base once as well. I could do a bit more, but you know, more sport money.
Money.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you were quick on the sim. We were in the Formula 4 car on R Factor 2 here at Simply Race. Have you got much sim experience?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of sim racing for all my life basically, and been quite serious with it. Like I was in the F1 official esports Challenger series this year. So yeah, I've done a lot of sim racing before.
Oh, okay, so proper sim racing. Okay, not just the playing around. But are you looking forward to being part of the championship? What things are you going to try and get out of this weekend? You got plans for the future?
Well, this is just, I don't know what to expect this weekend. Coming in it, first time ever in a single seater, and not much actual experience. So just taking this opportunity and having a great time this weekend basically, and just hoping for just a good time.
Tell us, how did the race go from your side?
Yeah, race 1 was really good. I started out with a really good tyre strategy in qualifying, which put me in a good position for the first race. Allowed me to pull a gap. Nick Jukes had a good start, managed to get him on the outside of turn 1. Good, little bit of a sketchy move on the grass. I think the stewards will have to look at that one, but really happy with my performance in race 1 and glad to take the win for Team Onside Media.
Taking a leaf out of my book for that overtake, I rate that.
Yeah.
So tell us, would you like to dedicate this win to anyone?
I would like to dedicate this win to my co-commentator Lewis McGlade, because he's not here unfortunately. He's got more important things to do, like the Formula E, but no one cares about that. This is the place to be. Simply Race, GB3, GB4, pre-event, social, I think. Prep, simulator preparation.
We're not messing around here. No, we're not messing around.
Well, Piers, Jack Sherwood there, giving you a little bit of jip after the Friday sim racing. The sim racing was organised by Piers. He wanted to get some drivers along and he wanted to show that he is a driver himself. And I have to say, you did win both races, right?
No, I won the first race.
Quickest in the second race though as well. Quickest lap in the second one as well. Very nice and thanks for the GB4 drivers to come along and race against us. I got there for the second race and we won't talk about how I did, let's just say. It's one of those tricky ones as well where Megan Jilks was racing and I thought Megan Jilks was still there, but it turns out she'd only done the first race, and actually someone else who was there, a family member of someone was there, and I was ramming her off the road, and I was doing all the things that you don't see in the the GB4 Championship, and it turns out it wasn't Megan, which is quite awkward. Anyway, we've got to talk about this race, and I'm going to go straight over to Max Maserati because he started on pole in that first race, and things didn't go well for him, but he's starting on pole again in this second race. So let's see how he's feeling. Just as I came over, someone's bent over in front of him. That's not a great view. Let's go around here. We can just see Max looking at a phone here, some last minute preparations, because he's going to want to get a good start here, because yesterday he was absolutely pumped to have 2 pole positions. Obviously didn't go well for him in the first race, finishing down there with that puncture after the slightly chaotic scenes that we saw with Jared Waberski and Jack Sherwood, but I think Max Maserati is ready to go. See if we can have a quick word with him. Max, we're going to get a good start today?
Yeah, we are, same as yesterday, but better second half of the lap.
Yeah, no punctures, right?
Exactly.
Okay, and should you come into trouble from Megan, off the start there, your teammate, I mean, you are in a team, but it's also every person for themselves, right?
Yeah, we're going to give it, we treat each other like we're going to treat everyone else out there, but at the same time we are teammates, so if we do have the opportunity to work together, we'll use it. But Nick's right behind me, so I think we're going to have a good title fight here.
I was going to say, Nick is right behind you, and he's slightly overtaken you in the championship race, and it's very, very close at the top there. So for you, is it just a case of finishing before Nick?
I've got to finish before everyone, really, ideally. I've got to just keep doing what I've been doing, keep being consistent. Even if Nick gets past me here, he gets past me fair and square, then, well, he does it. So I've just got to keep my head. We've got a long way to go in this championship, but I'm going up for the win like I always will.
Absolutely you are. We're going to leave you to concentrate and get focused before the race there. I can see that he's very, very chilled out in the car. I have to say that one of Max's sponsors, Black Phoenix Apparel, who also donate a lot of their proportions to mental health as well, so it's nice to see that all the drivers have different sponsors, but Max has a sponsor which is looking after people's mental health, and obviously there's a lot of a mental side to the driving here, and I'm going to bring Piers in here, chatting to Nick Gilkes there, just talking about the mental side of driving, and we see Max there, and he's very, very chilled out, and he's just chatting to Jonathan Palmer, and very relaxed. Nicholas Taylor, we've spoken to him before races and after races, and sometimes when we speak to him before races, he's actually said to us candidly, it's a little bit off-putting sometimes because he's so young and he's so fresh on this, and we don't want to affect him in any way. Yeah. When you were preparing as a driver, I mean, when you're going into a race, how do you focus before?
Well, personally, as I mentioned, I think we mentioned this a couple of times before, but it's great to go over it again because it's so important. But like some drivers like to be relaxed. We've seen that Megan and Max, they're pretty chill. They like to chat. But other drivers, they like to be in the zone. I always used to like to be very calm, very collected. So I'd go over a lot of what I wanted to do in the race. So often, either right before the race, I probably would have been less inclined to chat. But then, I can chat.
I think Max Maserati is always happy to chat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it really depends on the drivers. It seems like generally a lot of these GB4 drivers are pretty chill about things. They're having a chat. You can see there's a bit of a conflab going on here. We might jump in.
Yeah, absolutely. We can see Nick Gilkes here, the GB3 driver, just chat. And we can actually pan round here to the man with the most downforce actually in the assembly area. 2 front wings there for your man from Hillspeed. And this is the train I was talking about earlier, where they have to have all the tyres and everything they need ready and waiting. So you can see all the different teams have their own little wagons that they pull in their I mean, they're quite smart, aren't they? Got all the tyres you could possibly need there on the front wings. Anyway, we were talking about Nick Gilkes. We'll come back to Nick Gilkes here, finishing 12th in that race before. Nick, we were just talking about how you and Megan are so very close, and you came and we've just seen the sim racing, and you were very much involved. And I can't remember who did best out of you two in the sim racing.
I think that one was on me. Yeah, I was a bit higher up. She did not have her best event there.
Hey, let's talk about Megan, because we're here, right? And I know, Megan, you were very disappointed with the grid penalty because you did get the pole position that first race, but obviously things didn't work out, but you did amazingly well to have that puncture, change the tyre and come back to third. All that's behind us now. What are you hoping for here, starting second? I mean, are you going to attack your teammate?
We'll see how it all plays out, really. I'm hoping for a good, clean getaway, and ideally, me and Max can break away from the rest of the field and then sort it out later on in the race. But you never really know how it's going to go with racing, and now with a bit of rain in the air as well, it could be anything.
Absolutely. And what are you thinking when it comes to the rain? Do you have any insight? Have you looked at the forecast? Do you feel like it's going to get any worse, or is it just spitting as it has been?
It's Silverstone, so I have no idea. It could do anything. So yeah, whatever comes will come, and I'll try and deal with it on track as I do.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to let you focus now and get in the zone. As we mentioned, Nick and Megan very, very close. We're going to walk and talk here, Piers, and looking here at the number 66 car for Fortec, Nicholas Taylor, who has taken over the championship lead from Max Maserati after starting 5th and making his way through that slight amount of chaos that happened in that first race. And as a driver, I mean, when you see that going on in front of you, I imagine that you're just wanting to go, you know what, without thinking about how I'm going to profit from this, I'm just going to stay out of this.
Absolutely. Nicholas Taylor was in a fortunate position. He was a little bit further back. He had a bit of a gap because you need to be in that sort of, to be able to predict what's going to happen and give yourself time to react. If you're a bit further back, it helps. If you're right on the group in front, we saw with Maserati and Waberski, he was trying to make advantage out of a situation happening in front, but then got caught up in it. Whereas Nicholas Hedge, that further back allowed him to see it happen, take a second to figure out what's going on, and then make a move. And he then profited from that and got into the race lead, and then didn't look back from there.
Absolutely, and we're going to move back a little bit further here. Sometimes we don't. It's a really weird one. Sometimes we don't have time to go all the way back, but I feel like we've got a little bit of time here. There is still a race finishing up on the track there, and we're going to go and have a look here. I mean, obviously Tom Mills did very well, didn't he? And here at Silverstone last time, he did very well, and actually the car had a bit of an issue, and he still did very well, still remained very fast, and obviously he's shown that he's still very good at Silverstone, coming second in that first race yesterday.
Yeah, it was a great podium for Tom Mills. Again, the Kevin Mills Racing cars looked good this weekend. Robertski has a great pace in testing. Unfortunately, that incident in the race yesterday meant he didn't get to show off that pace that he had. We know that Tom Mills had a great run here last time we were at Silverstone. They were struggling with engine issues that round, and as we're feeling the rain actually coming down now, just drizzling on our face, so that could make it interesting at the start of the race to get their tyres switched on. But back with that, we saw that even with Tom, the first time he came to Silverstone a couple of months ago, when he had that engine issues, because the slipstream is so powerful here, he could still manage to get his way to the front of the field. And it was only when the race settled down that then his lack of straight line speed then meant he fell back into the pack. But we've shown that then Tom has a lot of experience in Formula Ford 1600, which is all slipstreaming and lots of battles like that, so he used that experience. Jared Robertski has some different experience, but he's shown great pace as well. I'd be interesting if we want to watch, I reckon, Jared Robertski in this race, because he was picking racing in that previous one. Unfortunately, he made a small error, but he's going for it. It's definitely raining now.
So a lot of people, a lot of movement here. My next question was going to be to you, as we see Tom Mills and his mechanic, his sister Emily Mills there. You can see behind, you've got the tyres, the wet tyres. How quickly, as it looks like they are putting wets on, how quickly can teams replace these sets of tyres? I mean, we're going to watch it now, but
let's have a live action replay.
You can commentate a bit early if you want, because you can watch.
I don't think anyone's actually going to be changing yet. We're going to have to move.
I think we need to get out of the way. Let's move behind the Kevin Mills Racing cars. It looks like they're first to move. We can also see Jessica Edgar, Fortec car, is also having the tyres changed there. Doesn't look like Graham Brunton Racing. Logan Hanna here, very, very calm. Everything's. I mean, the rain is kind of stopped a little bit now. It's.
They're just getting
themselves, change a lot, I feel.
They're just getting themselves prepared. The teams will want to be prepared for every eventuality. As soon as they feel a bit of rain, they'll get everything ready, so the tyres are ready to go as and when they're ready. They've obviously only got a couple of guns per car, so what they'll do is if it does rain properly and they decide they're going to change tyres, they'll use the front jack to lift the front up. They've got a rear jack, both manual, and then they'll have a well-rehearsed strategy of who does the tyres, who does the guns, who puts them on, who puts them off, because it could be a last-second change, literally, a couple of seconds before we go out on track, and they have to have those cars ready when the Grand Marshal says go.
And I mean, the tyres are an obvious thing, but would you be able to change the settings on the wings? Because obviously, does the rain, does any excess wind change that?
They don't really change the wings for the...
It's too late in the
basically,
day,
and also the balance of the car doesn't fundamentally change with the wet tyre, so they'll run as they are. Again, also it takes a bit longer. They're a bit fiddly. You can see the rear wings. We won't zoom in on the rear wings because the rear wing settings are fairly... the teams like to have their own settings. They don't like to show off to other teams because obviously that's sometimes where they get their advantage, and if they're faster in a straight line or if they're faster around the corners. But you'll notice if you do look that some of the rear wings are more angled, so they'll have more rear downforce, and some will be flatter. In these GB4 cars, we don't have an adjustable front wing. The only thing you can adjust, I believe, is the front gurney. So you can't adjust, I think you might be able to adjust the height of the wing, but you can't adjust the angle like we can in GB3, which keeps things simple, it's fair for the drivers, less to think about for the teams as well, so it makes it easier for the drivers and teams to be much more consistent, and that's shown how close the racing is. Not so much downforce in these GB4 cars because they've still got quite a bit because they've got a big flat floor, but they haven't got the big adjustable front wing and they haven't got the big rear wing, so they're still pretty slippery, and that's why you see them moving around a lot more than the GB3 cars. But again, that's great for the drivers. They can feel the car moving, get them confident with a bit of sliding, and that's good in their development because this is a championship designed to get drivers at the start of their career and get learning and get confident.
Now, this could, in theory, be our first wet race in the GB4 Championship. We've been very lucky with the weather so far, and I think everyone's a little bit more chill now. The wet tyres have been moved away from Jared Robertski's car. They were by the existing tyres on the car for a moment there, but it looks like they've moved away. But as you say, everyone's ready and waiting. I do have another question for you about Logan Hanna's car, and as we're standing next to it, I've noticed that the air duct there has been taped over. Like almost half of the air duct has been taped over. Now, what's the reason for that? Is it that it's just a cooler day, the engine doesn't need as much cooling, or what is the reason for that?
Pretty much that exact reason. It's if you put taping over the air duct, I'm sure the mechanics will tell you more about it. I'm not an expert in that sort of area, but it will generally be because the radiators and all the cooling for the car is in the side pods, which goes to the back, and the air basically funnels through that side pod and then goes out the back, and that then cool air going in or air going in at ambient temperature then takes the heat away from the engine, which is 100 degrees.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps the cars cool. They don't actually have fans in these cars. So in your car, if you're sitting in traffic, you might hear the fan kick off, and it keeps the car cool. These don't have that. So that's why you'll see at the end of the race, when they stop on the podium area, they'll have basically leaf blowers. These teams will have leaf blowers, and they put them in the cars because they need that movement of air, because the cars generally rely on the fact that they're travelling fast to keep the cars cool. Putting tape over it just allows a little bit less air through that part of the car, so they don't need as much, so they don't cool the car as much, because the engine temperature needs to be in a perfect window of maybe 5 or 10 degrees to be at optimum. Any cooler and you might not be optimum. Any hotter, and then you're risking damaging the engine.
Yeah.
The engine, again, the rain is actually falling heavier once again. It feels like the wind has also changed. Earlier on and yesterday, the wind was coming down on the tailwind through this Wellington straight into Brooklands. It now feels like it's coming almost, I don't know which way south and east is the moment, but almost a different direction, and the rain is coming. Clouds getting low. You can
I've got to
probably
be honest,
see
as we look around, there's pretty much, I mean, this side of the track here is darker, but there are clouds all around, so the wind could change any direction and we get wind.
And also
rain,
we've also mentioned, I mentioned the GB3 race, but it's also worth mentioning here, Silverstone being such a large circuit, it's a big footprint on the ground basically, and you can, and it happens quite often, I've actually raced here, where this section of the circuit was completely wet, and then the other section of the circuit is completely dry.
Yeah, that's
especially when you start, and we can have that. So I don't know if you saw it this year in Formula 1, we didn't see it this year so much, but if it starts raining at one end of the circuit and then on slicks, but then it's dry at the other end of the circuit, you can often lose tire temperature on the wet parts, which then makes the dry parts tricky. And also, if it's completely wet, you then have to decide, right, am I going to come in and change tyres? Do I want to take wets? Because then I'll be slower in the dry areas. The rain is definitely.
I feel like we're going to get more movement in a second, because the rain is coming in again. And then let's just walk a bit further.
You can see
here.
actually the teams all looking at their phones, because they're looking at the times from the cars that are already on circuit, because they'll have an idea of how many seconds a lap slower is a point at which they want to change tyres.
Right, we're going to just walk across here as I accidentally take out the president of MSV, Jonathan Palmer, which is probably not a great idea. Garth Werberski, Jared Werberski's dad. We don't know much about how Jared drives in the wet. I mean, do you get much rain back home in South Africa?
No, not really. I think in 2 years we had a morning wet. So when I say morning wet, it rained 30 minutes later the track's dry. So
this could be a new experience for Jared.
Definitely new.
Okay, I mean, it looks like, they're sort of looking like they might be putting wets on, a few changes going on to the Kevin Mills Racing cars here. But obviously disappointing for Jared yesterday with that clash, but everything good with the car and he's in good spirits?
Yeah, he's in good spirits. It was just one of those things. I think he slightly misjudged the braking, and it was very close. So I think if he was like 2 meters further back, it would have been fine, but it was just one of those things, and it's really unfortunate that we took out basically Sherwood and Max, because it's all for the championship. So
yeah, and we know you've got a lot of the family over as well, which wasn't ideal. I've got to ask you, obviously a lot of people watching back home in South Africa, there is a big clash between England and South Africa in the cricket, and obviously two big cricketing nations. Is there a big interest in checking the score while you're in between watching Jared race?
Us, not really. We motorsport fans, so we don't follow the cricket.
It's not allowed.
But we still watch it, and so we'll see.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Just thanks, Garth. Just worth mentioning, if you just spin round, you can see that the guys are doing a bit of work on the rear of the car. Don't get too close. There's probably a bit of
they get very funny about their settings, don't they?
What they're doing, likely will be what they're doing is you can change the roll bar settings in these cars. The front roll bars are in basically by the driver's feet, but the rear roll bar you can access just by taking the rear of the car off. And this roll bar basically affects how stiff the car is in roll. So when you turn the corner, it affects how much it rolls over to the side. So if it's a stiff roll bar, it'll be nice and flat in the corners. And basically the stiffer it is, generally the more oversteer you'll have. So the teams are thinking, right, so there's a little bit of rain in the air, regardless if we go to wet tyres, if we soften that rear roll bar, it just gives the driver a bit more confidence, because it allows the car to roll a bit more. In the lower grip conditions, you want the car to roll a bit more, but when it gets higher grip, that's when you want the car stiff. So that's probably what they're doing, is either changing the roll bar setting or removing it completely, because you can actually disconnect one side.
And it's interesting to point out that obviously we say that the teams are quite protective. Obviously they are using the piece of the bodywork there to just maybe not show us everything that they're doing here, as the cars are, as JP said, sort of stock cars, and they can make certain changes, but they're all made by Tatuus, so they all come the same. So we can just see Tom Mills having things going on there, as Ollie Dutton from Vortec the deputy boss, runs past here, and it looks like we're going to get some action in just a second. I was just going to say it's good to see Christian Lester back on the grid. Back there, the number 7 car, the black car there,
Rosso
Verde, and you know, didn't drive at Snetterton, but he's back here on the grid at Silverstone, and you know, he did all right at Silverstone last time, I believe. I think I might be completely wrong, but I think that was when he was within the 103.
Yes, he's been at 103% this weekend, all weekend, which is great to see, because at the start of the year he was just outside of that, but great to see the improvement from the drivers all throughout the field. I'm looking forward to this race. It could be interesting. The sun is now coming out, so
it's crazy, isn't it? We've had rain, we've had slightly heavier rain. Now the sun is out.
It'll be interesting to see how, if the setup changes that some of the teams have made on the cars, it could improve, or it could make them the car feel slightly worse. So it'll be interesting to see that it might change the dynamic of who's faster in this race. But ultimately, it's down to the drivers. They're the ones on the circuit. They feel the grip. If you drive the car as fast as you can, you're going to be there or thereabouts. And again, it's all about the racecraft as well, because we know in GB4 that anything can happen.
Absolutely, and I think we've just seen in the background a lot of the wet tyres being put away now, so I think everyone is starting on the slick tyres they've got there. Any cars we can see, any cars with
brand new tyres on Logan Hannah on the right-hand side, so that again, if it is a bit wet, it will be hard for her to switch those on, because you need to get a lot of energy in to get rid of that shiny outer layer. You see the tyres on this, for the rest of the tyres on the left-hand side, they're sort of like a dull finish. That means they've been used, and then when they're shiny with the writing on, they're new, and that to get through that shiny layer takes just a few corners extra, but that few corners could be critical at the start of the race to your position at the start and therefore at the end of the race.
And we can see Marcus Short. I mean, it's his first race weekend here in GB4. The number 88 red car just over behind us here.
For the Hillspeed team as well.
And it's one of those ones where he's come into this and he's been thrown in the deep end. It's his first week driving this car. And actually, if it was a wet race, I mean, that's not for his second ever race in this championship. That's a lot to deal with, isn't it?
Here we go.
Yeah, I think the cars are almost ready to go now. And we can see the tech teams getting all the cars ready. Marcus Short just coming out here. Christian Lester coming past us as well. And of course, Chloe Grant there in the Graham Brunton racing car at the back. And I think it's probably time to hand over to Lewis McGlade.
The drama really is here. The tension is rising, and the rain is in the air. It's been very stop and starty, so we'll keep our fingers crossed that it holds either one way or the other. Drivers don't really like it when it's sat in that middle ground, but either way, thanks to John and to Piers, of course. We'll catch up with Piers in a couple of moments' time as he'll jump his way over into the commentary booth. Can say that we've got a couple of new tyres out there, with Logan Hannah and Chloe Grant both taking 2 tyres. Of course, they do have 6 tyres available to them, call them a set and a half of tyres available. As we look down on the start-finish straight, now from that angle it does look like it's quite, it looks like the rain's quite heavy. Now I can see out of the commentary window that it does look like it's okay. I think it's more just a bit of fog on the lens. And so for the Hillspeed cars that are 1 and 2 on this grid, things are looking all right. Of course, for Max Maserati starting from pole position, it's an actual pole position this time by. Last race he did start from P1, but of course it was Megan Gilks that had the pole position and then had a 3-place grid penalty. To update you as well, 3-place grid penalties, as we've been told about, going the way of Waberski. But it's tricky out there. This is what drivers really get a bit tense about. Don't really enjoy when it's that middle ground.
It's going to be interesting to see. The weather is so strange. Standing on the grid, it was freezing, started raining, and then within a minute or so, it's the warmest it's been all weekend with the sun blaring.
You can see how much rain was on the lens there on the run. You're out of breath, mate. Well done. It's not the shortest trip over from the assembly area. Let's take a look then at the grid. There's a Hillspeed 1-2. Max Maserati, who was your championship leader yesterday, not at the moment. Megan Gilks starts from second alongside. The championship rival, though, of Nick Taylor has been promoted up into 3rd position, as Waberski has been given a 3-place grid penalty, so he'll start down from 6th place. Nicholas Taylor moving up onto that 2nd row. Jack Sherwood and Tom Mills will both be promoted. Sherwood up to 4th, Tom Mills up to 5th, and then we'll find Waberski in 6th position. Behind that, in 7th place, of course, will be Logan Hannah, who had a great race yesterday. She got up into 3rd position. Unfortunately, a spin on the final lap dropped her out of it. Jessica Edgar having one of her best races of the season to 8th place before we find Marcus Short starting from 9th alongside Christian Lester. The 2 of those had a great battle up to the line for 5th position. The final car on the grid, of course, going the way of Chloe Grant for Graham Brunton Racing, one of the cars that has 2 new tyres in this race. But when you've got a championship on the line, it's not just a race, championship on the line, Max Maserati and Nick Taylor, what's going through their minds when you don't necessarily know exactly how much grip. Because from this angle, from what we're seeing, it doesn't look like it would be that different. But you know as a driver it is.
Of course, it's one of those, when you see the spots on the visor, you know that there's going to be a point at which the grip goes away, and it does go away quite rapidly. It's one of those things where it's quite hard to judge. Some circuits, it's a spot of rain and it goes slick instantly. Other circuits, you can drive until it's almost pretty much chucking it down, and it's really strange. But it's all about the surface temperature of the tyre. As soon as that tyre gets cooled down, then you lose the grip. You can see how much less grip they have warming up, leaving the grid, compared to when they're going out and the tyres are warm. So that's what they have to contend with. And it's at that point when you're driving, you have to think, right, so I've seen rain on my visor for 2-3 corners now. How heavy is that rain? Has it been raining here at this part of the circuit more than other parts? And it's effectively a guessing game. It's a guesstimate. You are estimating on how much grip you're going to have at every corner, and you either underestimate and you brake early and you think, okay, I'm safe, but I'm slow, or you get it perfect and you think, right, I'm right on the limit of grip, that was perfect. Or you can quite easily just brake slightly too late, lock up, go run wide and lose positions, or potentially your whole race if you make such a big mistake that you end up in the gravel or the wall.
I have heard of a thing called mental rain, which is where it rains on the visor. It's not that heavy.
That's a DC,
but
isn't it?
There's a nice, I think so. Yeah, and it's on the visor, and you're sat there thinking, hang on, this rain's heavier, but it looks like it's heavier than it is. And knowing that is kind of something you can only do on feel.
Absolutely, it does look always worse than it is. The speeds that you travel in these GB4 cars, even, but especially GB3 as well, when the rain starts falling, it hits your visor, splats out. A bit like if you were going on the motorway, you can see that it's splat out. But in these cars, because your visor is directly in the elements, it runs off the visor as if it's chucking it down, even if there's only a few spots. But you kind of get calibrated. You know how much rain is actually a little bit of rain and how much is a lot, with more experience. So some of the more experienced drivers like Max Maserati, who's done 2 or 3 seasons in single seaters, might have a better idea than potentially Nick Taylor, who's never driven, as far as we're aware, he's never driven in the race in the wet in one of these cars. He might have done testing, we're not sure about that, but yeah.
When they did Media Day, that was in torrential rain earlier on in the year. But either way, they can't focus on that now because it is nice weather at the moment, and we'll keep our eyes focused for the final third of the season. Max Maserati and Megan Gilkes will start from the front row of the grid as round number 17 of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC, is underway. Christian Lester with a great launch going through the middle of Marcus Short. A super start though from the number 81 of Max Maserati. Had Nicholas Taylor getting around the outside for second position because Megan Gilkes didn't have the greatest launch of all time, but she's super fast in a straight line. It is Nicholas Taylor up into second position as they race their way down towards Maggots, Beckers and Chapel. But watch that number 64 as we head out onto the hangar straight. Jack Sherwood right into the mix as well, dragging Tom Mills with him.
Tom Mills is looking racy there, but Jack Sherwood right on the back of Megan Gilkes looking for a manoeuvre. That's I believe that's Christian Lester looking at the back of Logan Hanna, looking on the outside. That's a great showing and a great start for him.
Yeah, but look at this, Tom Mills. There's Nicholas Taylor, the top 2 in the championship, about to go side by side up towards Stone. Nick Taylor goes one way, drives it back out. Jack Sherwood straight down the inside of Megan Gilkes. There is still the lead being held by Max Maserati, but Jack Sherwood up. I think Tom Mills is also going to come through as they race their way down towards Vale. Looking one way, Nick Taylor has the race lead. Max Maserati drops back behind from that race lead. Tom Mills comes up into 3rd place as Jack Sherwood down to 4th. Megan Gilkes is down all the way to 6th.
Chopping and changing left, right and centre. There's a great move from Jack Sherwood again. He looked outside to defend and then went inside of Megan Gilkes, but then Tom Mills took them both.
Yeah, and look at this, Megan Gilkes trying to come straight back through on Jared Waberski, not able to do so just yet. And look at the lead that Nick Taylor's already got, having ticked off a couple of corners. He's feeling the confidence, a bit of a lock up there. A bigger one though from Jared Waberski, who picked up the 3-place grid penalty in that corner by making contact with Maserati, and the car directly ahead of him of Jack Sherwood. Does not want that to happen once again.
2 or 3 lockups going into that corner, and with rain on the lens, I suspect it's a bit slipperier at that part of the circuit, potentially the slipperiest. And we go side by side.
Yeah, Jack Sherwood, he's going for it. He's going for the podium. He's trying to make it stick. He's had 6 podiums from the last 8 races, and he's trying to get another one as he gets down the inside of Tom Mills, heading down into Brooklands. Tom Mills out a little bit wide. He's got the inside line though as they run through Luffield. A little bit of a lock-up from Waberski as well, and the 78 has to worry about the South African driver who's just looking to the inside. He was trying to get back underneath Tom Mills, but the 2 Kevin Mills racing cars either side of him hanging on.
Max Maserati is trying to close that gap to Nicholas Taylor at the front, but we've still got chopping and change at the back. Round the outside, can Jack Sherwood do it once again?
Oh, he's so good at this. He's going to run a little bit wide though, get squeezed off just a touch, but he was already committing in way too much. He's still side by side. Jack Sherwood on the right-hand side, Tom Mills on the left. These two have done so many great moves in the season so far, and Jack Sherwood all the way around the outside, still trying to get it done, but Tom Mills is there. Tom Mills is going to hang on, and Jack Sherwood not able to get through. He's going to have a really slow launch though onto the hanger straight, and Jared Wilberski is going to be right there. He's going to pick up slipstream though from his teammate who watching his mirrors, and look at that, Tom Mills keeps it over to the left hand side of the shot, right hand side of the circuit, because he wants to give the slipstream to his teammate and not to Jack Sherwood.
That was side by side action through Maggots, Beckett and Chappell. Great racing once again, leaving just enough room. Amazing racing between Sherwood and Mills.
So good. That was such a wise moment there from Tom Mills, but Jack Sherwood's not done, so he has dropped the position from Wilberski and drops back now to 5th. Megan Gilks, despite having great straight line speed, has not been able to close back in. Taylor hanging on to the race lead, Maserati in 2nd, Mills, Sherwood and Wilberski. Well, obviously we know the switch has happened there, and Sherwood's dropped back to 5th. He might well drop back into 6th place, because Megan Gilks straight down the inside is where she made the move at the end yesterday. She squeezed off Jack Sherwood though. Oh, it's super tight, and Jack Sherwood drops back another position, and here comes Logan Hannah to the outside as they come down into Village. She's not able to do so, but she might think of a bit of a lunge down into the loop.
Jack Sherwood showing that as soon as momentum starts going backwards, it's so hard to stop. He was the one aggressing, trying to make the move earlier on this lap, and then he's dropped backwards just by being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and now he's in the clutches of Logan Hannah.
Well, Kevin Mills Racing's then now in 3rd and 4th position in this race, with a great battle there between Tom Mills hanging on. Logan Hannah is down the inside there. I don't know if you caught that, but going into Brooklands, Logan Hannah had made the move, at least to the inside of Jack Sherwood there, who started this lap in 4th place and might well leave it down in 7th. I'm not 100% sure as to whether Logan Hannah was able to make that move stick, but there's Nick Taylor across the line, hanging on to the race lead by around about a second by my eye. Jack Sherwood is still ahead of Logan Hannah. Christian Lester, got to give a big shout out, is also closing into that battle.
Nicholas Taylor is pulling away at the lead. He is at the fastest first sector, the fastest second sector, and nearly the fastest final sector, but the 4/10 alone in the first sector compared to the last lap. Jack, you seen something? Sorry, Lewis.
Jack? Oh no, I'll take it. That's fine. No, it's Christian Lester running wide at the first corner. I'm genuinely, knowing how much Christian Lester has struggled with this car over the couple of rounds that he's done this season, 3 rounds that he's done this season, I am really impressed with Christian Lester this weekend. So impressive. Same with Logan Hannah as well, getting to the outside of Jack Sherwood and already getting through. I think Sherwood might have a problem.
I was about to say exactly the same thing. It looks like even in the toe, he is dropping back, so potentially that contact that he had in race 1 has meant that there's something not quite right with the power of that number 78 black and yellow Elite Motorsport car of Jack Sherwood.
Yeah, he really had to send it in then, and the number 7, the Rosso Verde car of Christian Lester is right there now. There's no disrespect to the two that are either side of him, but Jack Sherwood, he has been on the podium so many times. It kind of rings a bell to how Tom Mills was here. Remember that second race here when we went racing a few months ago? Tom Mills worked up to the race lead and then just didn't have the engine power. It kind of like dropped him back, and he'd get off one by one. Kind of feels like that right now.
Yeah, it looks like Jack Sherwood just doesn't quite have the straight line speed he had at the start of this race and in the previous race as well, and what we would expect him, because we know he's been one of the fastest drivers. He said in the pre-race that he's only been a couple of tenths off the fastest drivers, and it looks like he's losing more than that. I mean, the middle sector, let's have a look. His middle sector was a whole second slower than Nicholas Taylor, and I don't expect that to be what Jack Sherwood's driving only, so I'm wondering if there's any issues there. We've now got Jared Wilberski right in the back of his teammate Tom Mills in those 2 black and blue cars.
Well, 2 laps complete, coming up to the end of the 3rd lap of this race, and Taylor's still hanging on, as you say. Maserati comfortably clear, but this is the battle for 3rd. Mills, I think he might well regret of assisting his teammate to make that move on Jack Sherwood, because now he's got to worry about Wilberski, who is right there. Tom Mills has had 2 consecutive podiums over the last couple of races, and now Wilberski might well steal it. But guess who's closing in? Same as she did yesterday, because Megan Gilks is right there. This is back with Jess Edgar. Marcus short on the rear end as well, on the number 88. Heelspin's run a little bit too wide though, and drags off. Is that Christian Lester directly behind? He's had a couple of issues on that lap.
Well, Christian Lester just dropped off a little bit, maybe made a mistake that we saw, maybe out that we didn't see out of shot. Although I'd like, again,
we're giving it side by side here though.
Yeah.
Christian Lester was making it work on Marcus Short there.
Great racing here, right? It's right through the field. We're seeing some great racing. Just looking at the lap times again, Maserati with the fast lap that last lap, although only about 300ths faster than Nicholas Taylor. It's interesting to see how the pace changes between them in the race.
Well, Jack Sherwood's coming back at Logan Hanna now. This is for 6th position at the moment. Sherwood obviously dropped back on the hanger straight on the previous lap, but is throwing it all around. You see that much wider line. He's going to look to the inside to really throw it into the Vale chicane, and does not do so in the number 78 race. It's Sim Racing, you know my opinion and all that. But Jack Sherwood is struggling a lot here. He's struggling to find his way through to try and get himself back up in the 6th position. It's the battle for 3rd at the moment, and Megan Gilks is really closing in on the rear end of Wilberski and Mills.
This could be a 3-way battle for 3rd place very, very soon. I was just talking about earlier on, looking at the lap times, the sector times from the previous lap between Taylor and Maserati. Seems like Taylor has a big advantage in sector 1, almost half a second faster, but then Maserati coupled 3/10 faster in sector 2, and then also a couple of tenths faster in the final sector. So they've got different pace. They've got pace in different parts of the lap. So if they do come together, it'll be interesting to see that gap, ebb and flow.
Yes, indeed. 3 laps complete, 4th one about to be done as we tick over 9 laps. There's 10 minutes roughly left to go, so we're expecting 5 more laps in this race. As you can see how close Wilberski is. Just the angle where they're looking, you can see it on the helmets, particularly with Wilberski because of how colourful it is. You can see as they're going through Luffield, they're looking basically almost 90 degrees whilst they're trying to get the car around the corner, because they're looking at the end of the corner, not where they're at right now.
You are, in these cars, you have to look where you're going, not where you are. So you're one step ahead. When you're coming up to the braking zone, you're then looking at the apex. When you brake and you turn in for the apex, you're then looking to the exit. And then before you're at the exit, you're looking to the next corner, because that is how you give your brain processing time for each corner, and it makes the driving seem slow, which gives your brain more time, and also you can pick out those points that your car's going to much sooner.
So racing through Magnus Beckers and Chapel, there is Jack Sherwood ahead of Logan Hanna. I think he did that one down at Cops Corner, because he certainly was behind coming down into the final sector. So Jack Sherwood now up into 6th position, but has a very long way to close this battle, as Wilberski's closed right in on his teammate. The battle for 3rd position at the moment, Mills, Wilberski and Gilks. Way too wide there for Jared Wilberski. Brings it back onto the circuit though, doesn't have too much to worry about, but he can't do that too many times, because as much as he didn't gain or really lose anything there, race control will be keeping a counter of that.
Of course, the marshals will be looking at every corner, making sure that you're not going over the track limits, and if they see it too many times or they log it too many times, you will be getting a 5-second penalty, and then more and more penalties if you keep doing it.
It is, I will say, I don't know if it's to do with temperature and stuff, or when we went racing earlier on the year, these races are a lot more calmer than we had. I know it was
lock up from Wilberski
with the crash that we had yesterday, but these races are a little bit more chilled. Obviously, the drivers have got more consistent. They found a lot more in their time in the car, and it seems a lot more calmer out there.
I don't know whether it's to do with the conditions or whether everyone's just found their own pace, but I remember the start of the year, the first time we came here, the races were crazy. Let's see that gap at the front. Is it coming down? Let me have a look at the second time. It's very similar in 1, fairly similar in 2, although it does look like Taylor slightly has a pace advantage over Maserati. It was 1.53 last time round. Let's see what happens as they go over the line this time.
Yeah, indeed, and on the previous lap, before this one that they're just about to complete, they were separated by 200ths of a second. There is Nick Taylor coming up across the line to finish the 5th lap of this race. We've got 4 more left to go, and as they cross the line, pulling out just a little bit there.
Yes, 2/10 faster Nick Taylor was at the start, at the end of that lap, than Maserati. So the gap extending ever so slightly. You can see Nicholas Taylor here, one with the car, number 66, that white and red Fortec Motorsport car. We know Fortec have got a long history of being successful in single-seaters and lower formulas, or sort of junior formulas throughout the years, so they can produce a great car around this Silverstone circuit for Nicholas Taylor, and he's pulling away with the fastest, being the fastest on track at the moment.
And there is Max Maserati in 2nd position. And I will say something about Nick Taylor, and I'm not trying to say we're not going to cross that bridge yet. We'll deal with that a little bit later on this afternoon. We'll not cross that bridge just yet. But when we came here last time, qualifying, he didn't have a pole position here last time. He qualified 2nd in both races. It was Alex Walker, if I remember correctly, who had a pole position in both. I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, I don't think he had a pole position. And the point being is that maybe he doesn't qualify, but he really has the pace as we look at the battle for 3rd once again. As much as Wilberski's close, he's not able to do it.
It's a bit of a stalemate for 3rd place. It was all coming together at one point, but it seems like they've all found their own rhythm, and the gap is just about 3 or 4 tenths between all 3 drivers. I expect that to ebb and flow slightly, and I'm hoping that we can see some moves before the end of the race, because we've seen fireworks between all of these drivers throughout the year.
thinking of oversteer as well. There was a little bit of a wider line there from Tom Mills as they come through Aintree and onto the Wellington Straight, and Weberski's closing right back in. This is the attempt. This really is it, because Weberski is right there. He's going to look inside or outside. The defensive Tom Mills defends this one. It might well have to be a big send, but it's against your teammate. You can't just throw it in. These two, I think, have had contact a couple of times this season before, more so tripping over each other rather than anything else. They do get along quite well as far as we've seen, but Weberski's not feeling confident enough to just send one in.
There are no friends on a racetrack, Jack. I keep calling you Jack, as in like Jack Sherwood, but you're not, you're Lewis.
No, yeah, well, it's because it's 78, I get it.
Exactly, yeah, you know, kindred spirits. But anyway, this is the closest that Weberski has been for a while. He is only a couple of tenths behind.
So tight. It is so close for this battle for third place. Like you say, tension is very high, and like you say, there are no friends on a racetrack. I've been wisely informed that if you do need to make a send, if you do need to make a big dive, it needs to be classified as a challenge move. But I'm not sure if Weberski will be able to pull one of those off. It'd have to be a very big send.
Mills slightly wide through Chapel there, which might hamper his exit. Weberski's nice and tight through the exit there. You can see that Tom Mills' nose is under pressure, just trying to break that slipstream early. I saw on the grid, when it was raining on the grid, there were some changes going on to Tom Mills' car. I didn't see if they made a change to Weberski's car. I know what happened. I don't want to reveal it over the stream because I know the teams protect their setups. But I was wondering what if the setup change that they made to Tom Mills' car would have affected if it stayed dry. So I don't know whether he would have been... Is he struggling with the setup, or is it helping him? Well, it seems like he's going okay so far, but that is something to think about, because some of the cars would have done different things with the setup with that rain before the race.
And now you can look at it, the sun has come out. Actually, if I look out the commentary window, we've got some blue sky on the horizon as well, so there's a little bit poking through as the day's starting to look a little bit nicer, but it's been so on and off, and these are the days where it's the hardest, because if it's one way or the other, that's fine, because you can deal with it, because it's predictable. Yes. When it's like this, it is completely not.
It is unpredictable. It's so windy out there. We know that there's rain about. I was speaking to Richard Randall, who comes from Birmingham way, and he said it was absolutely drenched in Birmingham this morning on his way over, which is not that far, and the wind's sort of coming from that way, so we haven't seen that rain yet, if we do see it, but Richard Randall last series, I think he's a PR officer. I don't know his actual title, but he's the one in charge of making sure all the social media for this championship goes out, and he keeps us updated with any updates. So those of you who don't know Richard Randall, we're a big fan of Richard Randall, and he's a very important part of this championship.
Yes, indeed. And I also don't know his official job role, so I also want to tell that. Glad you were thrown under the bus on that one. Either way, Nick Taylor hanging on to the race lead still. It did seem to close back in. It's just a tenth of a second. Maserati closed back in. Of course, Nick Taylor's just holding him at arm's distance. They're kind of still looking after their tyres a little bit. They still have to worry about it a bit. Both of the hill speeds, I'll remind you, are down a tyre now, because obviously they both have punctures. Aren't they? We're going to give them back.
It'll be interesting to see. I didn't actually think about that. Which tyre? Was it then new side tyre, or was it the used tyre? Because if it was a tyre that they weren't going to use in this race anyway, it wouldn't have made a big difference. Yeah. But if it was their newer tyre, then that will affect the balance and also their speed overall.
Big defensive move there. You can see Tom Mills looking into his mirror, right, left, seeing where's his teammate coming from, because Jared Weberski's going to look to the inside, and the number 20 thought about it. Weberski with that bright yellow helmet and the bright yellow gloves, he was fancying it. He's feeling hungry. He wants that third place. Of course he does. He doesn't have too many opportunities to go. There is just 2 laps left in this race.
You could really see Tom Mills looking left, looking right, looking left in his mirrors there. Mirrors in these cars are so small that you really have to look directly into it. They're not like the luxury of most road cars now with massive mirrors, or even the newfangled ones with cameras. I'm not fortunate enough yet to have one of those new fancy ones, but these mirrors are so small, they wobble in the wind, so you need to be careful and make sure that you know exactly where the car is behind. It's quite hard to judge distance, but you get used to it. Tom Mills had a good middle sector here and pulled a slight gap, which looks like Weberski is now coming under pressure from Megan Gilks.
There's Marcus Short on the rear end of Jessica Edgar. This is the battle for 8th position, just a little bit further down in the order. 2 laps left to go. They're about to head onto the final lap of this race, and this battle for third is still as close as it has ever been in this race. All 3 of these have not been separated by more than a second since the opening couple of laps when they came back together again and Megan Gilks joined the back of this train. I'm surprised Gilks, with the straight line speed of that car, hasn't been able to do anything about. We can even see in here, in the speed traps, over the first speed trap, which by the way is on the Hangar Straight, Mills did 132 miles an hour, 135 for Weberski, 136 for Megan Gilks.
Shows that these cars, even though they're the lowest formula that or the slower of the 2 formulas that we're covering, they're still not slow by any stretch. 136 miles an hour is pretty swift.
It's pretty tasty on the speed trap. Yeah, they are not slow in these cars. Final lap of the race then. Jessica Edgar's coming under pressure from Marcus Short, and also we've got the Christian Lester with Chloe Grant, the battle for 10th position. There is Chloe Grant, who's run a little bit wide at the first corner, and there's your race leader, the 66 with 6 wins. Well, he's going to make it 7 here, I think.
Well, unless the commentator's curse
No,
comes into
there's no
effect.
such thing as a commentator's curse. Even Nick Taylor knows that now, as here comes Waberski with the big send. Once again, he looks to the inside, still not able to make it stick on Tom Mills. Just holding it in the right spot. I'm liking this from Tom Mills because he's not defending clean air. He's only defending when he needs to.
Exactly, that's one thing you need to learn as a driver, and these lower formulas like GB4 and GB3, they are perfect for developing racecraft, knowing when you should defend and when you need to basically press on. Jared Waberski, he had a look there, but unfortunately, because he didn't get the move done, that's actually hampered him, and he's now lost some time to Tom Mills and potentially cost him the opportunity to have another look towards the end of the lap. So you need to be selective of when you're actually looking up the inside of someone.
Yeah, you can see how close he is now, but it's just not close enough. So you think maybe if he hadn't, if you can't make it stick in the stone, maybe you should just stay behind and try and wait for a better opportunity later on?
Yeah, because if he hadn't had that look, he might have been close enough going into Vale, or alternatively, he's got a good exit out of the loop though. This is the closest he's been.
Yeah, out through Aintree now and onto the Wellington straight. It was a good exit there from Waberski, and Tom Mills is having to hold the defensive line as they race their way up towards Brooklands. Nick Taylor and Max Maserati are already coming through the final couple of corners, but here is Tom Mills defending to the inside. Jared Waberski straight around the outside. He's holding it there. He's still there. A bit of a squeeze off though as Tom Mills pushes him over, and Tom Mills is going to have to go run wide going through Luffield. Waberski, this is going to be a drag race towards the line, but I think it is advantage Waberski as Nick Taylor crosses the line to make his 7th win of the season ahead of Max Maserati, taking it from him once again. The drag race is Waberski versus Mills. It is advantage Waberski by 1/10 of a second. Jilks behind by 3/10. Jack Sherwood in 6th, but my goodness, what a final lap. He waited.
We were just mentioning, I thought it would the half move he did into Stowe would have cost him, and we still got some more action going down the field.
Yeah, it was. It looked a little bit closer from that angle as well because it was short, but here comes Christian Lester and Chloe Grant separated by half a second across the line. So there were some tight battles there. Just one of them wasn't for this man, Nick Taylor. Like you say, taking one once again from Maserati, starting from pole position. This was surely the weekend for a Max Maserati victory. It's not happened yet.
Not yet, so there's still one more race to go. I called Max Maserati winner for this race, and unfortunately, once again, Nicholas Taylor just had the pace measure at the start of the race, and it was only the start of the race when he pulled away, because by the end, they were matching lap times, with the gap actually coming down the last couple of laps. Whether that was Nicholas Taylor just conserving his tyres and making sure he was nice and safe. But yeah, great result for Nicholas Taylor and also Max Maserati. I'll let you talk to the results, Lewis.
Absolutely. Nicholas Taylor once again, we're almost getting bored of seeing his name at the top of the list, but he's showing why he is right at the top of the standings. He took over the championship lead after the previous race, after that drama for Max Maserati. He takes the victory ahead of Maserati and ahead of Waberski in third. We're catching up with those post-race. Just about ahead, Waberski over Tom Mills. He doesn't make it 3 consecutive podiums. Megan Jilks down in 5th place, was unable to pass the 2 Kevin Mills racing cars. Jack Sherwood, Logan Hanna, Jessica Edgar, Marcus Short, Christian Lester in 10th place, still keeping behind Chloe Grant, who was in 11th. Fastest lap of the race though did go the way of Max Maserati by just 0.02 of a second, because Nicholas Taylor did a 2:02.380, playing the 2:02.358 that Max Maserati did. He'll be a little bit frustrated, but I will tell you, after the incident yesterday for Max Maserati, when he had the puncture and had to come back into the pit lane, etc, etc, ended up finishing 9th place. Nick Taylor won. Nick Taylor did go and have a chat with Max Maserati to see, what happened and stuff. Not to rub it in or anything, because they get along quite well. You'll see them frequently chatting in the paddock, and kind of wanted to make sure that everything was all right. And Max said, it's one of those racing things. Obviously, he was irritated, but Maserati said that he used his good luck back in Snetterton, and you can't win them all. But he is back onto the podium once again, is Maserati, for the 10th time in the GB4 Championship, and a well-deserved one as well. He had the pace, just not enough, and not at the right time to take on the mighty 66. You can see there, once again, super happy. He'll jump out of the car. I'm not sure that one will feel quite as good as yesterday's, because that one was a bit out of nowhere, but still, a win's a win. And it is a 7th one. Race engineer coming over again. The handshake between Max and Nick, these two being the top two in the championship. You can see his team manager as well, Ollie Dutton, hanging around in the background there on the left-hand side, ready to come over and congratulate Nick Taylor on another well-deserved victory. They sweeped them yesterday in GB3 and GB4, of course, with the Yole Grand Force victory. Not going to happen today, because it wasn't a Yole Grand Force victory in GB3. Brandon Height obviously shaking the hand of Nick Taylor. Let's head down to catch up with our drivers, because John Jackson's standing by.
Thank you very much, Lewis. Yeah, just watching Nick Taylor, just congratulating the other competitors there. I can tell how much he's smiling just from his eyes and his helmet there. Got a lot of friends here this weekend, has Nick Taylor. We'll just let him put his helmet down on the car there. Well, hello, sir. 7th win of the season. You are the championship leader. You've extended that lead, and yeah, I mean, you know, you're not qualifying as well as you want to, but you're certainly making up for it very quickly in the races.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the car's been perfect since Thursday, basically, but then we had a bit of an issue. But yeah, the car was amazing. I mean, the first lap was amazing, so I try to maintain it through the race.
Absolutely, and I'm noticing a correlation between your beloved Liverpool winning and you winning, because the last time Liverpool won, I can't remember which race it was now, obviously Community Shield yesterday, Nicholas Taylor, now 2 wins. I mean, I'm sensing a pattern.
Hold on, last time I won, they lost the championship final, so it's a bit...
Okay, so the pattern does not exist. Good, good, good. Now, what's going to happen in this reverse grid race? We've heard from Lewis McGlade that there's no such thing as a commentator's curse. No. You've shown that, you know, you can make up places, and I think you've got a chance in the 3rd race.
Yeah, I mean, we're starting mid-pack, so I think we have the pace to get through and win.
Absolutely. Well, I know you've got a lot of family and friends here, so I'll let you go and celebrate with them. Nicholas Taylor with Fortec, race winner, 7th race win of the year. He's just going to have his photo taken here, and we will come and speak to Max Maserati. In fact, Max Maserati just walk straight through there, Max. I love that. I love that. Who cares? 2nd place, certainly better than that first race, and you know, you're still getting points. So I know you're a man who wants to win a race, though.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, much better than yesterday, obviously. But yeah, I mean, in the race though, I just felt like I struggled to get the tyres. I felt a little bit too cold, and that gave Nick the gap. And then once he got the gap, we just stayed the same for the entire race. We were just like that. Sometimes I gained, sometimes I dropped back a bit. But you know, it was an intense race, and the fact that we just sort of went with each other, and I think we just pulled away from everyone. But you know, positives, we got the pace. You know, we just showed it there. We've got the pace. The team have done a great job, because there was a lot of damage on the car from last night. So, you know, we'll see what we can do now, because we've got the reverse grid race where Nick's now starting in front of us. So now maybe it's my turn to return the favour.
I think it probably is. We were talking on commentary, Lewis and Piers, about your tyres. The puncture you got in that first race, was that a new tyre or was that one of the older ones?
I think that was one of the newer ones.
Okay, so that's hampers you a little.
That was a lot of the problem. We kind of hampered from the strategy point we took on the tyres for race 1. Kind of gambling on the rain today, which didn't come. And then on top of that, we didn't manage to maximise what we did on the strategy because of what happened yesterday.
Yeah.
So, but in terms of damage limitation, I'd say it wasn't the worst in the weekend. We can see how quickly he can turn around. Maybe there's some kind of pole position curse at the minute, because they had 2 doubles last time, and look what happened, and now we have 2 doubles and it swung back again. So.
Hey, who knows, but you have got the pace, fastest lap today as well, so we'll let you go and get ready for that 3rd race a little bit later on. Max Maserati, 2nd place there. Let's find Jared Waberski, who is behind me. There he is. Sorry, you were covered there. Some excellent racing towards the end there, and obviously it's a little bit tricky when it's your teammate, but you made the move, you didn't quite get it on that last lap, but then finally you got one more opportunity, and that's all you needed.
Yeah, no, it was quite a good race considering what happened yesterday. So we started quite further back, made some good moves in the beginning. Then once we got behind Tom, it's just like really hard to pass. So it's all about trying to set it up and time it right. So yeah, I tried on the second last lap, didn't make it work. And in the last lap we had it's last 2 corners, and I just had to send it. So yeah, I'm happy to be P3. I think it's a good result considering what happened yesterday.
Okay, well, we're going to let you go because the podium is about to start. Jared Waberski there, driving for Kevin Mills Racing, having some excellent racing with Tom Mills from Kevin Mills Racing as well there, Piers. We'll talk about that more in a minute. I know that Jared's dad seems like a very happy man as well. But we'll let the drivers get to the podium now, I think. They don't seem to be actually that close to the podium. Just talk me through that last lap there, because it looked like Tom Mills was going to possibly push him off there.
That was so close. Jared Waberski around the outside, always risky. Teammates, of course, they don't want to make contact. but he held around the outside. Tom Mills gave him a squeeze, he kept it, but then Tom Mills eventually had to give up the space, and they went side by side pretty much over the line. Great racing, so little difference between the teammates. It's great to see.
And as for your Megan Jilks in 5th place there, watching two teammates battling, you're thinking, well, there's a chance they might knock each other off and I might come third, but it didn't happen. We'll hand over now to Lewis McGlade, who's going to talk you through the podium.
Yes, indeed, I will. And you know, it's that time as well where we discuss our points in the championship and see how things stand going into the final race of the weekend, because we've only got 7 races left in the championship. There is a look at Waberski's car that got itself up in the 3rd position with a move on the final lap of the race. Well, the top of the championship has just grown even more, considering that Nick Taylor came into the championship, into the weekend in 2nd position in the standings. He now leads by 20 points. Stunning weekend so far, and it's the 2nd time this season we've had a double winner from Nick Taylor, because of course the last time we were at Silverstone he took 2 victories. There's Waberski, who will take to 3rd position onto the podium. Remember, he had a streak of podiums a bit earlier on in the season with a 3rd, 2nd and a 1st. There's Max Maserati with his 10th podium of the season. Still a 0 when it comes to victories, and there's a driver that's taken 7 of those victories of the season so far. 7 from 17. It is a very impressive record for Nick Taylor, and you can see I was wondering if Max was going to be like, go on, spray some champagne. He did have to help Nick Taylor out with that a few rounds ago. Alas, not this round. They've still got to get themselves ready for the next race, and I really do hope that if Max Maserati does spray some champagne in that 3rd and final race, that he actually makes sure that he washes his race suit, and so he can actually wear it for the next round, which is in a month and a half, so he should be all right on that one. But that's why he's in the slightly different race suit that we'd normally see Max Maserati, because it was, let's just put it as not ready. The Waberski family fan base waiting by his side as well, holding up the South African flag. And, well, why not? Because after a stunning drive like that, a great move put on with against Tom Mills, it really was a great effort. And obviously all the photographs being taken with each of the drivers with their well-earned podiums. I've got to say, see the drive again from Nick Taylor. A 7th victory. It is only a 9th podium, so he does have 1 less podium than the driver that's standing to his right, our left. And like you say, an incredible drive thus far this weekend. And we're not going to put the curse on, it's fine. I don't believe in the commentator's curse, which drivers aren't particularly pleased with, because every time I say it, I don't believe in the commentator's curse, I only believe in bad driving. And Nick Taylor laughs at me when I say that, and isn't particularly happy. We'll head down to John, though, when he can wrap up and see who else he can find down in pit lane.
Thank you very much, Lewis. Piers just mentioned there, Piers is joining me now, you just mentioned, well, the rain didn't come. It's now coming now. Every time we're standing outside it seems.
Just 2 minutes too late. That would have been entertaining final couple of laps if we were in this.
It would have been. Now Nick's got a lot of friends and family here, Nicholas Taylor, so let's just grab them. Guys, we're live on the TV stream here. You're friends with Nick. What are your names?
Sana, I'm Sana.
And are you just friends with Nick? How do you know him?
Oh yeah, I went to school with him back in Malaysia when he used to live in Malaysia, yeah.
Did you ever think you'd be seeing him doing so well in the championship? I know he's been a racing fan for years.
Yeah, it's his first year, so I didn't expect him to be winning like this.
He's doing very well. We've got to move out of the way, so I'll let you go, but it's nice to see you come and support him. All right, so yeah, Nick, very popular guy. We've got Nick's brother Chris here as well. We're kind of being moved on, so let's walk. It's a little bit tricky here.
Shuffled out of the way there.
As we get
also, just like to say, we saw Grant, is it Grant Waberski or Jared's dad? Garth. Sorry, my mistake. Looking very happy. I saw Jared's mum came over to me and said, I've got a little present for your friend that chats with you on the TV. So, Lewis, you got some sweets incoming.
The story behind this is that Jared's mum sends over gifts every time they come back over from South Africa, and she sent me and Piers chocolate from South Africa, and Lewis McGlade, our esteemed, wonderful commentator, was like, there's no, so yeah, so there Lewis, we go, Lewis.
And
we've got that for you, and also we've got to say hello to everyone watching in South Africa as well. It's nice to see that people are commenting on the live stream as well. Obviously, we don't want you to win the cricket today, though. I mean, we're happy for Jared to do well, but not the cricket team. England need to win the cricket. Anyway, let's move on. I like to make sports clash with each other. Logan Hannah, I think he might want to talk to us today. Let's have a look here. And she seems deep in conversation. She obviously had a little tricky day yesterday, spinning towards the end there to avoid contact with Megan Jilks, and Yeah, I mean, she wasn't around to talk to after that race yesterday. Maybe she will be today. Maybe Piers wants to see if she's available. Would you like to talk to? Hey Logan, we didn't talk yesterday. It was a little bit tricky there as you spun and you avoided that contact with Megan Gilks. How do you feel it went today? It was obviously a lot better out there.
Well, we finished where we started, which is also where we finished yesterday. I got Jack at one point after he made a mistake. And then because of that spin, it shocked the tyres on that left-hand side, and it just greened to a point where any time I leant on that front left, there just was no getting on the power when I should have been, which is how Jack managed to get past me again. But our track record shows that we always have mega tyres for race 3, so we're going to go for that and hang on to that and push.
You certainly did very well last time we were here at Silverstone in that third race. Now, before the race, me and Piers were discussing the tyres. A lot of other teams very, very much getting the wet tyres ready, but you were chilling. We were like, Logan Hannah looks like she's not bothered. And was there any fear from you that there would be a wet race, or were you fairly confident it would stay okay?
I knew that if it went wet, and at least one of us were out on slicks, they would have to red flag it to make sure that car was able to change their tyres. But if it went wet for maybe the first lap and a half and then it dried up, I was on slicks, so I wouldn't have to stop. They wouldn't stop the race for someone on wets to change the slicks. As well, it was sprinkling, and I know that once your tyres are up to temperature, it doesn't really have an effect until it is actually wet. And it was just kind of having that mind space going in, knowing that unless I could see it settling on the track, it wasn't wet.
Yeah, not too bad. Okay, well, Logan, we'll let you get on and get ready for that third race. And as I've said, we know how well you can do in that race, so best of luck. Okay, Logan Hannah there with Graham Brunton Racing with Laser Tools. Not having the weekend perhaps she wanted so far, but we saw last time in the reverse grid race. This is Silverstone where she started crying before, wasn't it, Piers? And emotions just came out, and it was a fantastic moment for her and the team and everyone around.
Yeah, great memories. She had great races here last time we came out. Unfortunately, as she just heard from her, yesterday's spin hampered her a little bit today as well. But race 3, she said she's got good sight, she's confident. So she'll be looking forward to that.
We're just going to not get the cameraman run over by Jack Sherwood's car there. Wouldn't be an ideal way to stop this broadcast.
Yeah.
I was just going to go and see who else we can find here. I know Max Maserati's dad, Lee, is around. Big character, and I've noticed in the crowd there, Nicholas Taylor had a lot of friends and family. I didn't hear the guy's name, but Nick's friend there, who went to school with him in Malaysia, was absolutely blown away by how well Nick is doing. And I also noticed Max Maserati has got a bit of a fan club out because a lot of people wearing the aviators. Oh, it looks like his dad doesn't want to talk to us. It's fine. No, he's not want to.
He said, and I quote, "When he wins one, I'll have an interview."
Really? Well, there we go.
But we've got more than just Max looking for winning.
I was just saying, it's not just Nicholas Taylor's got fans here. We've got Max Maserati fan club. A lot of people wearing the aviators. I don't know how they're related. They tapped me on the shoulder. They said Max Maserati fan club. I was like, okay, fine. I don't know if that's actually an official fan club. Knowing Max, he's got a logo, he's got a website, he's got a clothing line. I wouldn't be surprised if he had an official fan club where you get a newsletter and maybe a postcard at Christmas. Who knows? Right, let's see who's around. We can speak to Marcus Short, maybe. Perhaps we'll see how it's going on there. We meet again. We were sort of saying that you're in a tricky position there if it was a wet race because you're only just getting used to this car. Yeah. You must be quite happy it didn't. The heavens didn't open.
Yeah, I'm happy that it stayed dry because I've not actually raced in the wet before, so having it in the first time in one of these would be a bit tricky. But yeah, it was a big improvement on yesterday. I was actually had some promising pace, but just was stuck behind the car in front for so long, and I almost had her, but then had a double downshift, and that messed that up. But yeah, it was much better pace in the first race, so I'm happy.
I think progress is the kind of thing you can hope for here in the first race weekend. You're not going to come in and be totally used to the car. What's the most surprising thing you found about the car? Probably, it's quite a physical car to drive.
Very physical, yes, and just the whole thing is a complete different style to anything I've done before. So it's been tricky to try and get out of old habits to maximise what you need to do in this. But yeah, like I said, each race I'm getting better, and for the third race I'm starting P3, so
absolutely
good.
So there's a really good chance they were picking up a trophy. Now, we've been talking about Max Maserati and Nicholas Taylor, always come with a lot of fans, a lot of friends and family, and I'm just going to throw them under the bus here, but there's a lot of people here who are supporting you and filming you. Who have you come with this weekend?
Yeah, well, brought basically everyone I can. Yeah, so got my whole family and friends here because everyone follows me around with my racing all over the country. So
is it added pressure for you?
No, just makes me more excited and builds me up more. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I like it. Marcus, we're going to let you get on. There's one more race, as you say, starting P3, so I think you've got a good chance, and we'll look out for you. There we go. Marcus Short, brand new to the GB4 Championship this weekend, and nice to see that he's really getting to grips with the car and making progress, because, I mean, that's, as I say, when you're getting in a car and it's your first weekend, it's all you can really hope for, really.
Yeah, it's great to see new drivers coming to the Championship. We mentioned it before. Marcus has some varied experience, but he's getting on well. He was in the race there, had a great side-by-side. We had some great side-by-side action between Marcus Short and Christian Lester. So
I did see. They were. There was a good battle there.
It was
Christian Lester. I was impressed with Christian Lester. Sometimes he has struggled at other tracks, but I feel at Silverstone, Christian Lester, he's got it down a bit more, and he was battling there. And at one point, he was battling with, I think, Logan Hanna at one point as well.
Come on a long way.
Good to see that Christian's making those improvements.
Excellent. I mean, Christian at the start of the year, he a bit sad. He didn't have the most experience, but came into this. He lacked a bit of pace, but every round we've seen him come back faster, more confidence. We've missed a couple of rounds, maybe done some extra testing, but this round especially, he's right in the hunt, looking very confident in that car, which is great to see, because we want to see more cars all closer together, and that's what we're getting in this GB4 Championship.
It is, and it's very, very close at the top. Obviously, Nicholas Taylor is now the championship leader. Max Maserati, though, coming second, getting some good points there. I mean, if he'd finished down the order, I mean, that would have been disastrous for him going into this weekend as the championship leader. I think Jared Weberski, he's not far behind. If Jared Weberski can keep getting on the podium, I mean, he could start pushing them a little bit. But to be honest, there's not much of a gap between, drivers like Tom Mills as well.
It's very close throughout the field. The gaps in points is not massive. I mean, Maserati and Taylor are a bit further out in front, so maybe it'll be a struggle for Weberski to catch them completely, but never say never. If he strings some pace together and gets some race wins and some more podiums, who knows? Because again, ultimately, Max Maserati is right in that championship hunt. Having not won a race shows that consistency is so important. And consistently finishing in the podium is what you need to build a championship campaign.
It is, and another exciting race in the GB4 Championship. I mean, a lot of the race there was just some solid racing. I mean, that was worth watching just for that last lap, I think. Just, watching Jared Weberski chasing down his teammate, making a move, not quite getting it, then making another move and making it stick, going over the start-finish line with such a small gap, with Megan Jokes pushing those two as well. More exciting racing. We've got more GB4 coming up later on, but the next race we'll bring you live is the GB3 Championship. That's coming up at around about 2:45. The race starts at 3 o'clock, and we'd love to have you with us. So make sure you're following all the social channels, GB3 and GB4. And from me and Piers and his very small bag of chocolates, we'll see you a little bit later.